In the 1970s, whenever Nigeria Airways was mentioned, a regional giant stepped up and hoisted the flag of Nigeria higher. This was an airline with over 44 fleets of aircraft, serving many destinations. There was a big future ahead of the company, but sadly, it didn't live long to see it. At the time of its closure, the airline was in great debt, totaling $528 million. How was it even possible for such a great airline to fall? This is African View Motivation. Let's look at the rise and fall of Nigeria Airways. Nigeria Airways was founded on 23 August 1958 under the name West African Airways Corporation Nigeria Limited. It was purposely to succeed the West African Airways Corporation, which had folded up. This was an airline that had built a strong reputation, giving the new ownership a greater chance of success. The Nigerian government was the major stakeholder with 51% stake, while the remaining stake was shared between Elder Dempster Lines and British Overseas Airways. The new airline inherited some aircraft from their previous owners, which was a great boost for the start. The airline officially started operations on 1st October 1958 with British Overseas Airways Corporation's Boeing 377 Stratocruiser linking Lagos to London. The airline also had an agreement with Ghana Airways, which was helpful in increasing its destination served. In April 1960, the fleet comprised of 1 de Havilland Dove, 8 de Havilland Herons and 8 Douglas DC-3s. By 1961, Nigeria became the only owner of the airline after buying the shares held by British Overseas Airways Corporation and Elder Dempster Lines. This made the airline the flag carrier of the country. This followed many developments which was very significant in pushing the airlines into its golden years. A couple of acquired and leased aircraft were added to its fleet, helping to increase and expand its services in Africa and overseas. As of March 1970, the airline had a total of 2,191 employees. It was a sign of a fast-growing airline. On 22nd January 1971, the company was rebranded as Nigerian Airways. During these times, the company received great support from Lakers Airways, Ethiopian Airlines, Trans World Airlines and a few other international giants who expressed their support by either leasing their aircraft or providing technical and managerial assistance for a contracted number of years. In the mid-1970s, the airline reached a stage of steady growth. Its workforce had increased to 2,400, which was remarkable. Its fleet had also received many additions. As the growth became visible, the airline began enjoying many code-share agreements within the region and even internationally. Its destinations served also increased, with flights going to Saudi Arabia, New York City, Rome, Madrid, Monrovia, and many more. The future was bright, but only time could tell how far the brightness could go. The airline decided to replace its old Boeing aircraft by taking possession of 4 new Boeing 737-200 in early 1983. To secure these new aircraft, the company acquired a loan of $70 million, which was arranged with 7 major banks. This added to the huge debt the company had already accumulated. In November 1983, the airline experienced a plane crash. Their Fokker F-28 crashed while approaching Enugu State, claiming 23 lives from the 72 people on board. This caused them to withdraw their Fokker fleet from service. Approaching the end of 1983, tensions between the civilian and military aspect of Nigerian government were escalating. Many high-ranking officials feared that the situation could worsen if care was not taken. A coup took place on 31st December 1983, which ousted President Shehu Shagari and installed Major General Muhammadu Buhari as head of state. Years after, The change of government greatly exposed the Nigeria Airways of unimaginable mismanagement, corruption, and overstaffing. This realization led to a disturbing decline in the airline's operations. The International Air Transport Association suspended Nigeria Airways in early 1987 from the clearinghouse, preventing the airline from issuing tickets to fly over other International Air Transport Association member airlines and the converse. This was as a result of an accumulated debt of $1.1 million. The situation kept on getting worse, and by late 1987, Nigeria Airways had debt of approximately $250 million with revenue of just $5 million per month, an expenditure of approximately $5.2 million a month. To tackle the situation, the airline increased its domestic fares by 100% and international fares by 20%. This was to raise more funds to alleviate the deficit, but unfortunately, it failed miserably since passengers quickly switched to cheaper airlines, therefore reducing the passenger traffic for Nigeria Airways. The next thing the airline did was to lay off many of its employees. 2,700 of them had already been laid off, and it wasn't still enough. This also affected the airline's route, forcing them to discontinue unprofitable routes. Flights to Cotonou, Dakar, Douala, Kinshasa, Monrovia, Nairobi, and a couple of African destinations were discontinued. In December 1988, the airline dismissed 3,000 employees in an effort to keep the airline open. As if that wasn't enough, the carrier suffered another major accident, which dented the reputation of the company when the airline was already struggling. The financial burden on the airline kept increasing, and the government was no more in a position to bail it out. Privatization of the airline was seriously considered as early as 1993. In 1997, the UK Civil Aviation Authority banned the airline from operating in its territory, citing safety concerns. In return, the Nigerian government also prevented British Airways from operating in their country. Even though an agreement was later made for both airlines to operate, it was very clear that the golden days of Nigeria Airways were far behind them. By late 1990, the International Finance Corporation was commissioned by the Nigerian government to assist in the process of restructuring and privatization of the airline. They had an option either to partner with a large European airline or liquidate the carrier. As of October 2000, the fleet of Nigeria Airways, which was numbered 32 in 1984, had gradually been reduced to just 3. The United Kingdom cited safety concerns again in 2001. In that same year, the International Finance Corporation withdrew from its advisory position, citing the unwillingness of both the company and the government to carry out the necessary measures that will make the airline attractive to potential investors. Nigeria Airways kept facing many allegations of corruption and mismanagement. This made the company look very bad in the public eye. This was so disturbing that the government started an investigation into the disappearance of more than $400 million between 1983 and 1999. South African Airways was brought in to help revive Nigeria Airways. The agreement was, however, terminated later on. In May 2003, Nigeria Airways had only Boeing 737-200 as its sole serviceable aircraft. After the government had done so much to help revive the airline, they decided not to use taxpayers' money to sustain the overstaffed carrier anymore. Therefore, a liquidation plan was set. This decision was firmly taken because the company couldn't pay its debts anymore. To worsen the situation, the number of passengers carried fell from 21 million in 1985 to just 10,000 in the first quarter of 2003. The company owed over $528 million. This was after the government had already injected $200 million into the company in its last decade of operations. Nigeria Airways ceased operation in 2003 and was liquidated in 2004. A couple of attempts were made to revive the airline, including an agreement with Virgin Atlantic Airways. Virgin Nigeria was founded, which was intended to replace Nigeria Airways. Virgin Nigeria, however, failed to live up to expectation even after being rebranded as Air Nigeria. It also ceased operation on 10 September 2012. It is very sad to see a great country like Nigeria lose her national carrier in this way. We hope to see the airline hit the skies once more. This is the rise and fall of Nigeria Airways. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. This has been Bernard and you've been watching African Dream Motivation. Kindly subscribe for more.